Hi everyone! I was watching a YouTube video by user Genetically Modified Skeptic who made a video entitled Girl Defined is Unsurprisingly Islamic. And it's a pretty good video, really good video. I like that user, and I don't really watch Girl Defined. I always seem to watch it accidentally, so it's nice to see something that I don't usually see. And as one does, I was scrolling through the comments and found one that was really, really awesome, which is from White Scorpio 2, who asks this really interesting question. Can someone Christian, Muslim, or someone who left one of these religions at some time explain to me the appeal of the idea of God? It's like there's this nosy entity that wants to control my life and demands my obedience, and I should try with my every breath to appease this entity. I mean, I'm kinky enough to understand the appeal of a little domination submission play, but that's far beyond any BDSM practice, especially since there's no safe word. What's the appeal of that idea? Well, for the record, my safe word is banana. And that's a fantastic question, because that is a lot to ask, that there's this person or deity, entity, however you want to refer to it, in the sky watching everything that I do, and everything that I do should edify that deity. And that's kind of weird when you think about it. Why would anybody do that? And it actually came to me just watching the video itself, and I'll show you what I mean.
The same God who created you can be trusted with the details of your life.
Did you see it? Check it out again, but this time really focus on the expression of the person on the right.
The same God who created you can be trusted with the details of your life.
Do you know what that expression is? Inner peace. And I don't say that with sarcasm or hyperbole. I mean it. It is inner peace. It's the same expression I've made several times when I was religious. And if you ever watch any cult documentaries, it's the same expression you'll find on people who were part of, say, the Heaven's Gate cult. The reason that cults exist in an isolated state that repeat certain mantras, and the same reason that religions like Christianity and Islam require that you pray several times a day, is so you can stay in that mindset. Now you might be wondering, what's so bad about that? I mean, it's inner peace, right? Isn't that what any of us wants, is just happiness? And I would say, sure, every one of us wants happiness, but that sort of inner peace doesn't last very long. That's why you have to pray several times a day. I mean, we all have problems. So just to use myself as an example, you know, I've got depressive disorder, major depressive disorder, and anxiety disorder, and an eating disorder, and body dysmorphic disorder. Something like seeing myself in the mirror fills me with anxiety and self-hate. And when I believed in Jesus, I was able to pray that away, close my eyes, pray it away, turn away from the mirror so I don't open my eyes and be re-upsetted, you know, re-triggered, if you were, and move on with my day. And then something else would upset me, and so, all right, pray about this, okay? And then something else would remind me of my problems, okay, and you gotta pray about it, and something else would remind me of my problems, and pray about it, and everything will be fine, everything's fine, Jesus has my back, everything's fine. And then something else bothers you. This really compounded when I got disabled in the Marines, and I was desperately searching for any kind of reason that God would allow this to happen, because God has a plan for my life, right? He's a personal God, and I have a personal relationship, and God has a plan for my life, and I just got to figure out what that is. And once I do, maybe I'll be healed. Oh, wouldn't that be wonderful to be healed? And that hope actually saved me from killing myself, and that's fine, except that ended up making me drive myself crazy, because I was looking for something that most likely didn't exist. And that was a big issue. This is also the reason that whenever you ask for evidence, you're given personal experiences and appeals to emotion, which, of course, you know, we know that that doesn't count as evidence that there's a deity. That just counts as evidence that you have those emotions, and those emotions are okay, but that doesn't mean they came from anything supernatural. But the reason that those are given to atheists when they ask for evidence is because that's the reason people follow those religions. They don't follow those religions because they like the idea of somebody spying on them all the time. They don't follow the religions because they can't even think for themselves. They don't follow the religions for any of those really rude reasons. They follow them because nobody teaches them how to deal with their problems, but somebody claimed to have a solution. and they went with it. And when people say the stuff that you believe in doesn't have any kind of evidence of existing in real time, the reality that we exist in, that stuff doesn't have any evidence to show that it's real and true and accurate, that means that all the ways that I've been dealing with my problems is false. And I know kind of that it is, because I have to keep praying and reminding myself that everything's going to be okay. And I don't want to come to terms with that. And I think a perfect analogy for that is alcoholism. I'm a recovered alcoholic. And when I say that, I don't mean like, I used to throw back a few beers with my friends after work. I was like a legitimately diagnosed alcoholic, and I got blackout drunk 5 nights a week because I didn't want to deal with my life. It was not something that I intended, of course. It starts with one time and it just works. You have all this anxiety and then it's gone. And you have all this depression and it's kind of okay for a little while, and you're loosening up and having fun with people, and you're being social even though you're usually not very social because you've got anxiety, and it's so much easier just to be drunk. And so those 4 nights a week, 5 nights a week, 6 nights a week, 7 nights a week, and that just kept compounding. I remember back when I was in the Marines, before I got disabled, I used to be able to drink a bottle of whiskey and then wake up the next day and go for a run, and everything was fine. But after I got disabled, and also after I got older, I found out that drinking even less than I used to drink, but still drinking very heavily, I would wake up with a hangover, which was such a shock. And then at about noon, it would go away, and then I would drink again, drink myself into a blackout stupor that night. And it actually got worse, because I get migraines and stuff. And so these, all this alcohol will trigger migraines, and that's not a great time. So I tried slowing down with it and kind of easing off of it. And I found out I started drinking, and then I would get these hangovers, not for 1 day, but for 2 days. And so I would drink one night, then the next night I'd have a hangover, or the next morning I'd have a hangover, be puking and having a terrible time. Around noon, I wasn't vomiting, but I still didn't feel great. Later on, go to bed and wake up the next day still feeling really crappy, and it just kind of sucks. So obviously wasn't dealing with it in the best way. Alcoholism, we look at it and we say that it is obviously stupid, it's obviously wrong, and it's just give it up. What are you doing it for? And I think that's how a lot of atheists approach religious people. It's obviously stupid, it's obviously wrong, just give it up. What are you doing it for? But the person who's experiencing it, the alcoholic or the religious person, they do get something out of it, and that is to temporarily relieve whatever stresses that they're having, because nobody taught them the way to deal with it, or they're too embarrassed to ask for help, because unfortunately in a lot of societies today, we view mental health help as something silly and unnecessary, and are you just crazy? If you can work, so obviously you're not crazy. We dismiss it so much, and that's really unfortunate. Mental health is part of overall health, and we should really treat it that way. The brain it's an organ, it releases chemicals, and sometimes those malfunction, just like the pancreas is an organ, and it releases chemicals, and sometimes those malfunction, and we don't fault anybody for taking insulin. Why do we fault people for taking an antidepressant, So they deal with it in this way that just doesn't really help, and that's the problem. Because what's the alternative? Trial and error, failing repeatedly, and slowly making progress. Maybe. That's a lot more difficult than praying it all away and pretending it didn't happen. That's a lot more difficult than just drinking it all away and pretending that everything's fine. It's really unfortunate, but that's the reality of it. When people say that religion's a crutch for reality, that's pretty much what they mean. You're having a hard time coping with the fact that you're not perfect, and some parts of you might be pretty messed up. Like I said, I've got mental health issues. That sucks to have to admit. That really sucks to have to admit. And then what sucks even more is that, just like the diabetes example I gave, it appears that we can only manage the problem, not fix it. That's great. So you're telling me I'm going to constantly have to work on my depression. I'm going to constantly have to work on my self-hate and my anxiety and my eating issues and all that. I have to constantly work on that every single day. Yes. But the benefit is that you slowly make progress. It's not going to be fixed, but at least it's going to be managed. You're going to deal with it. You're going to be able to interact with people in a more genuine way. When somebody's hurting, you're going to be able to give them actual advice. When I was a Christian, all I did was say, you just got to believe in Jesus. And you know what? That's not possible for a lot of people. That would be like going up to somebody and saying, depression, you just need a drink. That's not a possibility for some people. Some people, that will appeal to them, and it will fix them the same way it fixed me. In the same way, if you say, just trust in Allah, some people will say, okay, if that's what I got to do, that's it. And when it comes to all that nosy God in the sky checking me out and everything I do, and I got to be totally obedient to him, if that's all I got to do to be okay in my head, what a small price to pay. Because obviously I know I'm already flawed. I already suck. I already believe this about myself. I don't have all my shit together. I gotcha. That's me. So to follow a religion that tells me that you suck and you're imperfect, but I have a solution for you as long as you just follow me. What a relief to hear. Imagine if we instead taught students how to manage uncomfortable feelings, what to do when they feel suicidal, how to approach a friend who might have an eating disorder, how to deal with the fact that they might have an eating disorder. What if we gave that to kids? I think there would be a lot less alcoholism, and I think there'd be a lot less religious reliance. That's just a guess, but it's a guess based on personal experience. As much as we all hate that, I think that would really be helpful, because that's the reason people stay in those religions. And a lot of times, and I'm sure you've seen it too, people will actually give the evidence that I used to be blah, blah, blah. But ever since I became Christian, or ever since I became Muslim, now I'm not blah, blah, blah. I used to be really depressed, but then I found Jesus and I'm okay. I used to be a drug addict, but then I found Allah and I'm okay. They're not okay. They're just convincing themselves that they're okay. And that's a really important distinction to make. It's also really important to come to terms with the reality that we're never going to be okay. Even if you don't have mental health issues and physical disabilities and those sorts of things, you're never going to be okay either, because nobody's perfect. Some of the ideas you have might be a little silly, inaccurate, stupid, cruel, and you're going to have to confront those someday. That you might be an asshole to somebody else. Your beliefs might be hurting somebody else. And I'm not talking about religious beliefs, just other beliefs might be hurting somebody else. A good example is people that are going to comment on here that mental health is just for pussies and all this other stuff. Those types of people would be a perfect example. That your beliefs cause harm to other people. That's something those people will have to confront. We're not perfect, and that's the human experience. And it's okay to have a human experience because we're human. To try to delete our human experience in favor of temporary, very temporary feelings of inner peace, that's such a waste. It's far better to grow. I will say, yes, I had those feelings of inner peace, the same feelings that were in the video clip I showed you, the same feelings that are in the video clips of the different cult members that I've seen. I've had those feelings, and those feelings didn't fix anything. Now that I'm confronting my life without the help of religion and without the help of alcohol, it's not easy, but I'm way better. I'm able to really deal with people and deal with my problems and manage my issues. And it's so great because this real, actual, tangible, good stuff, this help, this advice, I can give to other people. I don't have to tell them, let me just pray for you, and then have them walk away still feeling terrible. I can say, look, I feel the same shitty way that you do, and I can't fix it. But here are some things that have stopped me from committing suicide in the past. Maybe they'll help you, maybe they won't. People are really into that kind of honesty because that's all we want. We want an honest reality with ourselves, an honest interaction with other people, an honest experience in this life. Lying to yourself with that self-brainwashing inner peace stuff is not honest. Pursuing alcohol, pursuing drugs in order to cover up feelings that you're not dealing with is not honest. And I'm not saying anything if you just like to drink sometimes with your friends, you like wine with your meal, you like to toke up sometimes, you know, that's fine. That's a totally different thing from somebody who relies on those things in order to get through their day. I just want to have an honest experience with life. That's the reason I became an atheist. I had to be honest with myself about the fact that I didn't have evidence to support any of my spiritual beliefs, and that was difficult. However, I'm having an honest experience with life, and that is so much more fulfilling. I will say that inner peace temporarily feels really nice, but honest living is fulfillment. That is a totally different thing, and it's really hard to put the two into words. It's almost like you can put a Band-Aid on something that's bleeding, or you can actually fix it, maybe stitch it up. The scar is going to be there, the stitches are going to hurt, they're going to be work, and you got to deal with them and clean them and whatever, but it's so much more effective than that Band-Aid. That Band-Aid is easy, that Band-Aid's fast, that Band-Aid's inexpensive, that Band-Aid's on hand, that Band-Aid's ready to go, ready to rock and roll. Even if you get a little Hello Kitty style Band-Aid, it'll look good. But that scar is much more worth it. It's going to fix your problem, or it's going to at least heal it up enough that you can keep moving on with your life. You're not going to have to keep applying that Band-Aid several times a day because you just keep bleeding through it. That's the only analogy that I can think of for you. Well, I hope this has been helpful, and if you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to post it in the comments section below. If you got any of the issues that I'm talking about, like the mental health stuff or the physical disability stuff, and you need advice or you just want to bitch about it, that's totally fine. Hit me up on Skype. Lee Lemon, same thing with the O, that's a 0, L-E-M, 0-N. Hit me up on Skype. You can check that out again in the details section below. If you like the stuff I have to say, there's more of it on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. You can get blogs and pictures and videos that are just posted to Patreon and not shared anywhere else. But as always, thanks for listening.